Affects the knowledge of antiques and hasn't any. And, oh, yes, I think his left eye is glass.
He'd make a good cop.
Hollywood's golden age gave the world unforgettable love stories. But what audiences saw on screen was only the beginning. Behind the glamorous premieres, legendary romances, and picture-perfect marriages were secrets, impossible choices, shocking betrayals, heartbreaking losses, and relationships that changed cinema forever. Some couples defied every obstacle. Others paid an unimaginable price for falling in love. And in more than one case, what happened after the cameras stopped rolling was far more dramatic than any movie they ever made. These are the incredible true stories of Golden Age actors who married their co-stars. Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. In early 1944, Humphrey Bogart was already a Hollywood legend, a 44-year-old veteran of the industry who had become one of the studio's most reliable leading men. He had built his reputation on tough guy roles, playing characters who were cynical, world-weary, and always ready with a sharp retort. But beneath that hard exterior was a man who had been through 3 marriages and was still searching for something real. Lauren Bacall, on the other hand, was 19 years old, a former model who had been discovered by the wife of director Howard Hawks and signed to a joint contract with Hawks and Warner Brothers. She was young, inexperienced, and about to be thrown into the deep end of Hollywood stardom. Her first film role was opposite one of the biggest stars in the world, and the pressure was immense. But she handled it with a poise that belied her age. The film was To Have and Have Not, directed by Hawks, and the chemistry between Bogart and Bacall was immediate and electric. Their famous scene together, with Bacall delivering the line about whistling, became one of the most iconic moments in cinema history. But what happened off-screen was just as significant. They fell in love, and the age difference and the power dynamics could not stop them. However, there was one complication. Bogart was still legally married to his third wife, Mayo Methot. Their marriage had been notoriously tumultuous, earning them the nickname the Battling Bogarts. The divorce was finally finalized on May 10, 1945, in Las Vegas. And 11 days later, on May 21, 1945, Bogart and Bacall were married at Malabar Farm State Park in Lucas, Ohio. It was a quiet ceremony, far from the Hollywood spotlight, and it marked the beginning of one of cinema's most enduring partnerships. They went on to star together in exactly 3 more canonical feature films: The Big Sleep in 1946, Dark Passage in 1947, and Key Largo in 1948. Each film showcased their undeniable chemistry, and their partnership became legendary. They had 2 children and remained married until Bogart's death from esophageal cancer on January 14, 1957. Bacall was devastated by the loss and never remarried, a testament to the depth of their love. Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward first crossed paths on the Broadway stage in 1953, both serving as understudies in William Inge's play Picnic. They did not fall in love immediately, but their professional paths would cross again in a way that would change both of their lives forever. At the time, Newman was already married to Jackie Witt, with 3 children, and Woodward was a young actress trying to make her name in the industry. The reunion came on the set of Martin Ritt's film The Long Hot Summer in 1957, produced by 20th Century Fox. The film was set in the sweltering heat of the Mississippi Delta, but the heat between Newman and Woodward was even more intense. The chemistry that had been simmering since their Broadway days finally ignited. Woodward later recalled that she knew early on there was something special about Newman. Their love was not just about physical attraction, it was about a meeting of minds and spirits. There was a significant complication. Newman was married to Jackie Whitta, and the couple had 3 children. He was a devoted family man, but the pull toward Woodward was undeniable. His divorce was secured in early 1958 via a Mexican legal decree, and on January 29, 1958, Newman and Woodward were married at the El Rancho Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. They followed their wedding with a honeymoon in London, where they celebrated the beginning of a partnership that would last half a century. Their professional collaborations were extensive and legendary. They co-starred in a total of 10 feature films, including Rally Round the Flag, Boys, From the Terrace, and Paris Blues. Newman also directed Woodward in 5 additional films, beginning with Rachel, Rachel, a project that earned Woodward an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress. Their partnership was not just romantic, but creative, a collaboration that produced some of the finest work of both their careers. The marriage spanned exactly 50 years until Newman's death from lung cancer on September 26, 2008. Woodward, like Bacall, was widowed and never remarried. She once said that she did not think of Newman as someone to get over. He was just part of her life. Their love story became one of the most celebrated in Hollywood history, a testament to the power of finding a true partner. Laurence Olivier and Vivien Leigh. The love story of Laurence Olivier and Vivien Leigh was one of the most passionate and tumultuous in Hollywood history. They met on the set of the historical drama Fire Over England in late 1936, produced by Alexander Korda. Both played lovers on screen, and the chemistry was immediate and undeniable. Olivier was already a rising star in British theatre, and Leigh was a young actress with a burning ambition. But both were married to other people. Olivier was married to actress Jill Esmond, and Leigh was married to barrister Lee Holman. Their affair was public and scandalous, and both spouses initially refused to grant divorces. It was not until February 1940 that the legal obstacles were finally removed, clearing the way for their union. The years of waiting had taken a toll, but they were determined to be together. On August 31, 1940, Olivier and Leigh were married in a private ceremony at the San Isidro Ranch in Santa Barbara, California. Actress Katharine Hepburn served as one of the legal witnesses, a sign of the couple's place in Hollywood's inner circle. The marriage was a dream realized, but it would prove to be far from a simple fairy tale. Their professional collaborations were extensive. They co-starred as historical figures in That Hamilton Woman, a film that was one of Winston Churchill's favorites. They also performed together on stage in numerous Shakespearean productions, including Romeo and Juliet, Antony and Cleopatra, and Macbeth. They were a theatrical dynasty, celebrated for their talent and their devotion to the craft. But the marriage was strained by Leigh's severe bipolar disorder and chronic tuberculosis, conditions that were not well understood at the time. The strain on their relationship was immense, and by the late 1950s, the marriage was in serious trouble. Their divorce was finalized in December 1960, a heartbreaking end to a love story that had once seemed destined for greatness. Olivier later said that he had loved her, but he could not save her from her demons. Clark Gable and Carole Lombard. Clark Gable and Carole Lombard first worked together in the Paramount Pictures pre-code romantic comedy No Man of Her Own in 1932. At the time, both were married to other people. Gable was married to Maria Langham, and Lombard was married to actor William Powell. They did not initiate a romance, and their professional relationship seemed to be nothing more than a pleasant working experience. The romantic catalyst came 4 years later, at the 1936 White Mayfair Ball in Hollywood. Something had changed between them. They began a relationship that would become one of the most passionate in Hollywood history. Gable negotiated a divorce from Maria Langham, which required a property settlement estimated at nearly $300,000. finalized in early March 1939. The settlement was a significant sum for the time, but Gable was willing to pay it to be with Lombard. On March 29, 1939, during a production break from Gone with the Wind, Gable and Lombard eloped. They married in Kingman, Arizona, accompanied by Gable's press agent, Otto Winkler. It was a quiet affair, far from the Hollywood spotlight, and it marked the beginning of a marriage that would be tragically short. The marriage ended on January 16, 1942, when Lombard, her mother, and Otto Winkler died in the crash of TWA Flight 3 on Mount Potosi, Nevada. She had been on a war bonds tour, a patriotic mission that reflected her commitment to the war effort. Gable was devastated and never fully recovered from the loss. He once said that he had loved one woman in his life, and that was Lombard. Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh. Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh met at an RKO studio party in 1950. Curtis was a rising star, and Universal International executives strongly opposed the romance. They feared a marriage would alienate his massive teenage female fan base. The studio saw Curtis as a heartthrob, and they worried that a married man would not be as appealing to young female audiences. They believed his career depended on his availability, on the fantasy that he could be theirs. But Curtis and Leigh were determined to be together, and no amount of studio pressure could stop them. They married on June 4, 1951, in a brief ceremony in Greenwich, Connecticut. The ceremony was small and private, a stark contrast to the Hollywood spectacle that would later surround their careers. Leigh was already an established actress, and Curtis was on the verge of becoming one of the biggest stars in the world. Their union was the beginning of a partnership that would produce two daughters, actresses Kelly Curtis and Jamie Lee Curtis, both of whom would go on to successful acting careers of their own. Their on-screen collaborations were extensive. They co-starred in 5 feature films together, most notably the swashbuckler The Black Shield of Falworth, the biographical adventure Houdini, and the comedy The Perfect Furlough. Their chemistry on screen was undeniable, and audiences loved seeing them together. They were a Hollywood power couple, the kind of pair that made magazine covers and dominated gossip columns. But behind the scenes, the relationship was deteriorating. Professional rivalry created tension between them. Curtis was ascending to superstardom, while Leigh's career was also flourishing. The competition, combined with personal stress and the pressures of fame, took a toll on their marriage. They divorced in September 1962. Despite the end of their marriage, they remained friends and continued to respect each other's work. Their daughters grew up in the shadow of Hollywood royalty, and both went on to become accomplished actresses in their own right. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz met on the RKO Pictures studio lot during the filming of the musical comedy Too Many Girls in 1940. Ball was a veteran actress with a growing reputation, and Arnaz was a Cuban band leader and actor. Their connection was immediate and intense. They eloped 6 months after meeting, marrying on November 30, 1940, at the Byram River Dog and Clam Tavern in Greenwich, Connecticut. It was an unconventional wedding for an unconventional couple. To preserve their marriage against grueling travel schedules, they pitched the sitcom I Love Lucy to CBS. The show was a gamble, but it paid off beyond anyone's wildest dreams. They founded Desilu Productions, pioneered the use of a 3-camera film setup on 35mm film in front of a live audience, and eventually purchased the RKO studio lot where they met. Their corporate and technical innovations changed television forever. They were not just actors. They were pioneers who transformed the medium. Despite their immense television empire, Arnaz's struggles with alcoholism and infidelity led to a divorce finalized on May 4, 1960. The marriage had lasted 20 years, but the strain had become too much. They remained friends and professional partners, but the romance was over. Ball went on to star in other successful shows, and Arnaz continued to work in television production. Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor met on the set of the massively over-budget 20th century Fox epic Cleopatra in Rome in 1962. The film was a production nightmare, plagued by delays, cost overruns, and scandals. But the chemistry between Burton and Taylor was immediate and explosive. Both were married to others, Burton to Sybil Williams and Taylor to singer Eddie Fisher, and their affair was publicly condemned by the Vatican's weekly newspaper. The scandal was immense, but they did not care. They married for the first time on March 15, 1964, at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Montreal, Canada. Their union was passionate, volatile, and consumed by the media. They were the most famous couple in the world, and their every move was documented by the press. They co-starred in 11 films, including the critically acclaimed Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which won Taylor her second Academy Award, and The Taming of the Shrew. Their relationship was defined by extremes. They loved each other intensely, but they also fought with equal passion. Their marriage was a roller coaster of highs and lows. They divorced on June 26, 1974, but remarried on October 10, 1975, in a private ceremony at the Chobe National Park in Botswana. The second marriage was as turbulent as the first, and they divorced for the final time on July 29, 1976. Burton once said that he and Taylor were like fire and gasoline. They could not live without each other, but they could not live with each other either. Mel Ferrer and Audrey Hepburn. Mel Ferrer and Audrey Hepburn met at a cocktail party hosted by Gregory Peck in 1953. Ferrer proposed they star together in a theatrical production, and they co-starred on Broadway in the fantasy play Ondine. The play was a success, and their relationship developed during the run. They married on September 25, 1954, in a private Swiss ceremony in Bergenstock, Switzerland. It was a quiet wedding, far from the Hollywood spotlight. Their cinematic union was significant. They co-starred together as Prince Andrei Bolkonsky and Natasha Rostova in King Vidor's epic film adaptation of Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. The film was a massive undertaking, and their performances were praised by critics. Ferrer also directed Hepburn in the adventure film Green Mansions. Their professional collaboration was a meeting of equals, two artists who respected each other's talents. But the marriage was strained by professional divergence and multiple miscarriages. The strain of trying to balance their careers and their personal lives took a toll. Ferrer was also 12 years older than Hepburn, and their age difference created additional challenges. The marriage ended in divorce in November 1968, after 14 years. Despite the end of their marriage, they remained friends, and Hepburn always spoke of Ferrer with respect. Robert Taylor and Barbara Stanwyck. Robert Taylor and Barbara Stanwyck co-starred in the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer drama His Brother's Wife in 1936. MGM studio boss Louis B. Mayer actively orchestrated and insisted on their public courtship to combat negative publicity and fulfill the era's morality expectations. The studio wanted to present a wholesome image, and the courtship of Taylor and Stanwyck was part of that strategy. They were the perfect Hollywood couple, or so the studio wanted the public to believe. They married on May 14, 1939, in San Diego, California, in a ceremony arranged and heavily managed by the MGM publicity department. The wedding was a public relations triumph, but behind the scenes, it was less successful. Taylor was a rising star, and Stanwyck was already an established actress. Their marriage was not based on love, but on studio manipulation. Taylor's extramarital affairs led to a separation, and their divorce was finalized on February 21, 1951. They remained friendly, later co-starring in Taylor's final film, The Night Walker. Stanwyck went on to have a successful television career, and Taylor continued to work in films until his death in 1969. Their marriage was a cautionary tale about the dangers of Hollywood's control over its stars. John Wayne and Esperanza Bauer. John Wayne met Esperanza Bauer in Mexico City in 1941 while he was on vacation. Bauer was a Mexican actress who had appeared in several localized films. Wayne was married to Josephine Sayans, but that marriage dissolved in 1945 after a long separation. He married Bauer on January 17, 1946, in Long Beach, California. But the marriage was a whirlwind romance that quickly soured. The marriage was famously volatile. Bauer was jealous of Wayne's devotion to his film career. She felt neglected and resentful, and her jealousy often boiled over into explosive arguments. Following the wrap party for Angel and the Bad Man, Bauer reportedly fired a shot at Wayne as he entered their home, narrowly missing him by inches. It was a shocking incident that made headlines and revealed the depths of their dysfunction. The highly publicized hostile divorce trial concluded in November 1953, featuring mutual accusations of violence and infidelity. It was one of the most scandalous divorces in Hollywood history. Wayne later married his third wife, Pilar Palete, and had 3 more children. However, the scars of his marriage to Bauer never fully healed. Rex Harrison and Rachel Roberts. Rex Harrison and Rachel Roberts met during the UK theatrical circuits in the late 1950s. Harrison was already a major Hollywood and West End star, known for his sophisticated charm and his unforgettable performance in My Fair Lady. He was a man who had been married 3 times already, and his reputation as a ladies' man preceded him. Roberts was a leading figure in British New Wave cinema, a talented actress who had earned critical acclaim for her powerful performances in films like Saturday Night and Sunday Morning. She was drawn to Harrison's wit and charisma, and he was captivated by her intelligence and intensity. They married on March 21, 1961, in Genoa, Italy. The wedding was a quiet affair, far from the Hollywood spotlight, but it marked the beginning of a tumultuous relationship. Harrison and Roberts were both prone to excessive drinking and public arguments, and their volatile dynamic was thoroughly documented by European paparazzi. They were a combustible combination, 2 strong personalities who clashed as often as they connected. Though they primarily worked in separate film vehicles, they appeared together in theatrical tours, and Harrison supported Roberts during her acclaimed run in This Sporting Life. The film earned Roberts an Academy Award nomination, and Harrison was proud of her achievement. But the success could not compensate for the dysfunction in their marriage. Their arguments were legendary, and their drinking often made matters worse. The marriage ended in divorce in 1971. Roberts never fully recovered from the separation. She struggled with depression and alcoholism, and her career suffered as a result. In 1980, she died under extremely tragic circumstances. It was a heartbreaking end to a love story that had been defined by passion and pain. Gene Kelly and Betsy Blair. Gene Kelly and Betsy Blair met in 1940 when Blair was a 16-year-old dancer in the Broadway production of The Beautiful People. Kelly served as the choreographer for the show, and he was immediately taken with the young dancer. He was 28 years old, and she was 16, but the age difference did not deter them. They married on October 16, 1941, just before Kelly signed his career-defining contract with MGM. The marriage began with promise, but it was soon tested by forces beyond their control. During the House Un-American Activities Committee investigations of the late 1940s and 50s, Blair was blacklisted for her progressive political affiliations. The blacklist destroyed careers, and Blair's was nearly one of them. She had been a promising actress, but the accusations made it impossible for her to find work. Kelly used his massive box office leverage at MGM to force the studio to cast Blair in her Oscar-nominated role in Marty in 1955. The film was a critical and commercial success, and Blair's performance was praised by critics. She was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, a testament to her talent and resilience. Kelly's intervention had saved her career, but the strain of the blacklist had taken a toll on their marriage. The couple grew apart due to Kelly's intense work ethic. He was one of the hardest-working men in Hollywood, and his dedication to his craft often left little time for his family. They divorced amicably in April 1957, but they remained friends throughout their lives. Charles Bronson and Jill Ireland. Charles Bronson and Jill Ireland met in 1962 on the set of the World War II epic, The Great Escape. Ireland was married to Bronson's co-star, David McCallum, at the time, but Bronson was immediately drawn to her. He reportedly told McCallum directly that he was going to marry Ireland. It was a bold declaration, and it set the stage for one of the most enduring partnerships in Hollywood history. Following Ireland's divorce from McCallum, she married Bronson on October 5, 1968. The marriage was a partnership in every sense of the word. Bronson made it a contractual requirement that Ireland be cast in his film projects, allowing them to spend as much time together as possible. They co-starred in a total of 14 action and thriller feature films, including Cold Sweat, The Valachi Papers, Hard Times, and Death Wish 2. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniable, and audiences loved seeing them together. The marriage lasted 22 years until Ireland's death from breast cancer on May 18, 1990. Bronson was devastated by the loss and never remarried. He continued to work, but the joy had gone out of his life. Danny Kaye and Sylvia Fine. Danny Kaye and Sylvia Fine met in 1939 at a short-lived off-Broadway revue called The Straw Hat Revue. Fine was a trained pianist and lyricist, while Kaye was an aspiring physical comedian. Their connection was immediate and profound. They eloped and married on January 3, 1940, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Fine functioned as Kaye's chief creative architect, manager, and head writer throughout his golden era at Samuel Goldwyn Productions. She wrote all of his complex trademark patter songs for iconic films, including Up in Arms, The Kid from Brooklyn, and The Court Jester. Her contributions were essential to his success, and their creative partnership was one of the most successful in Hollywood history. Despite a trial separation in 1947, they remained legally married and professionally partnered for 47 years until Kaye's death on March 3, 1987. Their marriage was not always easy, but their bond was unbreakable. Michael Wilding and Elizabeth Taylor. Michael Wilding and Elizabeth Taylor first met during the filming of Conspirator in 1949, but their romance did not begin until they met again in London during the filming of MGM's Ivanhoe in 1952. Wilding was an established British leading man, aged 39, while Taylor was 19, looking for stability following her swift divorce from Conrad "Nicky" Hilton. Wilding was older, wiser, and offered Taylor the stability she craved. He was also charming and sophisticated, and Taylor was drawn to his maturity. They married on February 21, 1952, at the Caxton Hall Register Office in London. The ceremony was small and private, a stark contrast to the Hollywood spectacles that would later surround Taylor's marriages. Taylor's stardom rapidly eclipsed Wilding's during their marriage, particularly as she filmed The Last Time I Saw Paris and Giant. She was becoming one of the biggest stars in the world, while Wilding's career was stagnating. The professional gap and rumors of infidelity led to an amicable separation in 1956, with their divorce finalized on January 30th, 1957. Peter Sellers and Britt Ekland. Peter Sellers and Britt Ekland met in London in early 1964 after Sellers saw a photograph of the Swedish actress in a newspaper. He was immediately captivated by her beauty and determined to meet her. They married on February 19, 1964, at the Guildford Register Office, a mere 10 days after their initial meeting. It was a whirlwind romance that seemed like something out of a movie. They co-starred together in 2 feature films, the crime comedy After the Fox and the comedy The Bobo. But the marriage was strained by Sellers' health issues. Weeks after their wedding, Sellers suffered a near-fatal series of 8 heart attacks over a 3-hour period. The health scare deeply impacted his psychological stability and exacerbated his famously volatile, controlling behavior toward Ekland. Their marriage was marked by intense discord, and Ekland eventually fled the relationship. Their divorce was legally finalized in December 1968. These Golden Age marriages were a mix of passion, tragedy, and scandal. They captivated the public, inspired millions, and sometimes ended in heartbreak. They remind us that love, even in Hollywood, is never simple. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen. Like and subscribe to our channel for more updates.